Well, Campbell, unfortunately, we can't end our Metro Bank campaign on a high note. What's the initial reaction to that one?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, I think it summed up our whole campaign, to be honest. There was, so many highlights, the Alex Lees 100, the Ben Rain partnership, so much good stuff. But then ultimately a lack of consistency really hurt us. And that goes through all of the facets, batters getting starts and not going on with it, bowlers not delivering, a few misfields here and there. It just wasn't quite at the level that we expect and what we're after. And ultimately you pay the price. This is a tough competition. There's good teams, and they're unrelenting when they get a sniff. So look, ultimately very disappointed with the way we've gone about this competition.
When you normally see the pitch this morning and have that sort of chat, if we'd have won the toss, what would we have done? Would we have batted first?
We would have definitely bowled. Mate, those first 17 overs was probably the hardest I've ever seen. It was almost a red ball game. It nipped. And they bowled. They've got guys who can do that in those conditions. So ultimately, it was a guy like Alex Lees who just had to keep sucking it up. And when it finally flattened out, when the ball's got a bit older, then they cashed in brilliantly. But mate, at the end of the day, and I'm not having a crack at the groundsman because, it's a pitch, and some days you get ones that nip, some days you don't. And, it was overcast and perfect for bowling, really. And they bowled, I thought, really, really well in that power play.
You mentioned Easy a couple of times. The guy just seems to churn out runs all the time. Even though he's not been captain the last few games, just that senior figure at the top of the order. He just keeps ticking along, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a warrior, mate. And, he doesn't need a captain's armband to be a leader of this club. And, every time he goes out, he wants to do well for Durham. So I think someone mentioned that might be the most hundreds ever for Durham in either this competition or whatever, all up, which just epitomises the bloke, doesn't it? He makes runs for fun, and not always in the easy conditions, which makes him a truly great of this club, but also great of the competition, really, because if it's flat, if it's nipping, finds a way.
Half time, 300 on the board. I imagine you were pretty happy with the final 10 overs, as you've alluded to, but you were always going to need to bowl well. What was the sort of feeling in the dressing room? Did you feel like that was maybe a little bit above par, considering the start we had?
Yeah, for sure. I thought we were banging the game. I was thinking 265 would have been, cool from where we were. So to have 300, you're always going to back yourself to defend it. And I think that's where sometimes there's so many runs being scored in this competition, you get a bit blasé about 300, but it's still a good score. And we had to bowl well, and I think ultimately some of our younger bowlers struggled a little bit with their consistency, which, again, as a coach, I'm not going to yell and scream at them. That's learning. That's young kids being exposed to this hard environment, and hopefully they learn from that. And someone like a Sammy Connors, like I say, has not played any cricket this year. So he's going to be rusty, and we have to get him through overs. We've got to get him back on his feet and, get him bowling. So, like I say, we're ultimately extremely disappointed. But we're not going to sit here and mope and groan. We've got a massive month ahead of us, and we're going to hit it with absolute vigour and with a thirst for winning games.
You touched on it there. There's a lot at stake over this next month as the season draws to a close. There is no other way that we do things at Durham than going hard at it, and that's what's going to be needed to not only book a trip on finals day, but also make sure we're in Div 1 come next year.
Yeah, for sure. It's ultimately, we've put ourselves in this position, both the good of a quarter-final in the T20 and the bad in a relegation battle, which we just got to win a couple of games, or even one game, and then put pressure on everyone else. And suddenly it's a very clogged up ladder in the county championship. So the good thing about us, we always try and win a game. So it doesn't really matter what situation we're in, backs to the wall, whatever. We're going to try and win. We're going to try and win all three. and we're going to come hard. The quarter final, I think, is a new challenge. It's something that we haven't had here at the club for so long. I hope lots and lots of the people of the Northeast come and flock to this ground and we make it an absolute fortress, because Hampshire are a very good T20 team and they've been in finals a lot. And we're pretty good at it too now. So I think that Friday is going to be a wonderful game of cricket.